What is justice and how should it be brought about? In light of recent events, this debate has been reignited once again and is at the forefront of discussions everywhere. Justice is a passionate subject, and it appears that no other debate carries the same amount of conviction. But why is that? Why is justice so important, and where does it come from? In this video, the notion of justice will be examined, along with its origins and how it translates into tangible action. To begin, what are the origins of justice? Well, a rather common interpretation is the reverence or respect for laws. Justice could be the upholding of laws that have already been handed down long ago. Examples would include God's 10 Commandments given to Moses at Mount Sinai, or it could be adherence to a specific creed and moral code. Regardless of the different tenets a person follows, the commonality in this interpretation of justice is that it follows a code. The assumption with the interpretation of justice as following laws, beliefs, and tenets is that they are true, fair, and do not require further wisdom. In other words, they are self-explanatory. To uphold these laws, another assumption is that justice is a form of obedience. Now, that obedience could be to the extrinsic laws or one's own intrinsic moral code. What is just is to maintain those laws, and what is unjust would be rebelling or breaking those laws. But the problem with this explanation on the origins of justice is that it does not go far enough. If we define justice as the adherence to a certain class of laws, what do we do if a law is unjust in its very nature? The old saying is that just because something is legal does not mean that it entails morality. In the past, for example, slavery was legal, but it certainly was not moral. Rebellion against the unjust laws that legalized slavery would not only be just, but it would be a moral duty to do so. So, we cannot maintain a version of justice that only states to obey a set of laws without question. This is true because not all laws are just, and therefore must be disobeyed. If the perspective on justice that adheres to laws does not go far enough, then what does? The answer to that question likely rests within an individual person's subconscious. This appears to be more fundamental than justice as originating in respect for a legal or moral code. The reason an individual cares about injustice is because it is thought of as a severe mistreatment or wrongdoing to themselves, another person, or a group of people. Justice, meanwhile, is the notion that signals the correction of that wrongdoing. When someone is wronged, there is an instinct that wishes to set the wrong right. Because of this, we can say that the origins of justice rests within an individual instinct to correct those wrongdoings or mistreatments of themselves and others. This would be the fundamental and perhaps universal notion of justice we are searching for, the original source where every other conception of justice stems from. Additionally, once we remark that justice originates from an individual's desires to make amends for past injustice, this automatically suggests a revenge component. Justice as revenge is quite appealing and does make a great deal of sense. Justice is, in a sense, the avenging of those who have experienced wrongdoing. Avenging those people requires the punishing of the wrongdoer and/or restoring the wronged to the position they occupied before the injustice. In our modern legal systems, there is a section of the law called torts that deals exactly with this issue. If a person wrongs another to such an extent that their life is severely impacted, the law seeks to avenge them. The avenging is done in the attempt to restore the situation such that it mirrors what it was before the wrongdoing was committed. This restorative factor is largely done in financial terms, lost wages, pain and suffering, etc. Even so, it carries the same fundamental idea of justice, that justice is to correct an injustice, to avenge those who have been wronged. It is therefore retroactive. It looks to past injustice and seeks to rectify it in the present, extending into the future. Now that we have the origins of justice, we can examine how it manifests itself tangibly, and one dilemma that must be avoided if we are to ensure true justice. When there is an injustice, as in a crime that has been committed, justice is to ensure the wrongdoer does not go unpunished. The punishment must fit the crime, they say, and whether that is jail time or something else is to be determined by legal procedures. To satisfy the need for vengeance that appears to be instrumental for justice, punishment is a necessity. The rationale behind punishment is that it seeks to make amends for retroactive crimes. But this presents an inherent problem, which is, what if the punishment fosters further injustice? This problem is of direct relevance to the legal system and its punishments. If someone is thrown in jail for a minor offense, like drug possession, does the punishment really fit the crime, especially if it will do more damage to that person and general society going forward? For many, the answer is clearly not, and that is why the justification for punishment is becoming more problematic. Problematic because it seems to create a cycle of continuous injustice that extends into the future. If justice aims to ensure a brighter future for everyone, it cannot do so if it inadvertently perpetuates injustice. No matter how justice is pursued, it seems that it will always remain stuck in the past. It cannot escape its retroactive nature and probably does more harm than good in ensuring a better future. The solution to ensuring a better future for everyone lies in accepting the past, rather than remaining forever fixed on it. U.S. President John F. Kennedy once remarked that those who look only to the past, or the present, are certain to miss the future. He is right, and in the search of justice we cannot forget those words. The fine line of justice is between satisfying the desire for revenge and ensuring a more prosperous future for everyone. If we lean too far into vengeance, it will further perpetuate injustice. Yet at the same time, if we ignore avenging the wronged, then we will also enable injustice to run rampant. A very fine line indeed, and it seems that every individual must be aware of it. As for going forward, justice needs to be about reconciliation. How can we reconcile past atrocities with the present way of thinking? If we are to truly march forward together, then we must make amends. The unfortunate reality is that injustice will always exist, but that does not mean it cannot be limited. The greatest avenue to remedy the wrongs of the past is to establish a future with the least injustice. At that point, it is possible we can then be satisfied with what has been born out of the struggles of the past.